Tony Piscitello, from a banker, becomes an artist. He abandons the rules and regulations of banking and becomes a sculptor. About 6 months ago, he won an award, an art award, and so I asked him to come to my show, and he accepted it. I know Tony since my college years, and we were friends then, and then reconnected again after so many years. So welcome, Tony.
Thank you.
And thanks for responding to my invitation in a positive way.
It's a pleasure, yes.
Now, you know that we were college students and at City College, right?
Yeah, correct, yes.
Those were turmoil, bad years in those in the 60s and 70s. That was the end of the 60s, right?
Yeah, the country at that time was going through a change with a lot of students.
That area was a hot area at the time, right?
Right.
Civil rights movements and Malcolm X, and they were all there at the time. But you seem to sailed through without fear at all. I mean, we did not have fear at the time, but there were dangerous areas there. And you used to live actually in Harlem, right?
Yeah, I was renting a room actually because I was actually working full-time at night to support my education.
Yeah, I see.
And
at the time, we all worked. Even today, the kids work very hard.
So I stayed near the college because my workplace was in New Jersey, across the river. I see. And then there was convenience.
I know that you were renting the room over there with the black lady. I remember, a nice black lady. And I came to stay with you several times, especially during exam times.
And there was also blackouts at that time, if you remember.
Blackout, right?
No,
the whole city of New York was a blackout.
That's
but
right.
the political and the culture movement was really very much alive with the sit-ins and all that. Do you remember how we met? Because I don't honestly.
Well, I found out about Il Circolo Italiano, which was the Italian club, which was very active, and so I enjoyed meeting people there, like yourself and Mario Mignone and others. And others, and it was, like a break from
at the time, obviously, we were both immigrants, right? You came here at an early age, or?
I came in. I had finished my secondary schools in Italy, and I came in right after that. And was in the 1964, around that time.
So you went straight to college?
Yeah, I did. As a matter of fact, I had some college work in Italy, and they gave me about a year and a half.
What was the major in City College?
City College, I started with engineering, and then I transferred into physics department. Yes.
You've then very much admired by us, all the people who believe that you went into real hard, difficult subjects.
Well, it was difficult, but I enjoyed, understanding how nature works, and the physics was a good.
At that time, you were also working for IBM, if I'm not mistaken.
No, at the time at City College, I alluded that I was working in New Jersey. I was working as in the night shift as an operator and later a programmer, a computer programmer, for a company that they manufacture dresses and sell the dresses across the country.
I see. After City College, did you go to graduate school?
Yes, I went to University in Binghamton University.
Binghamton University.
I got my master's in physics again, and specifically in elementary particles, which are part of the nuclear physics.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I was actually, I did my all but dissertation work for the PhD program as well.
I see.
But I had a change of heart at that time, around the time, that, after about 2 years, 2.5 years there. And so I leveraged my experience in computers. And I was given, because at that time, not too many people work with computers, you know.
Yeah, sure.
I'm like a grandfather of the computers.
Yeah, you used to work with these computers that occupy the whole room.
Yeah,
right?
all room, a lot bigger than this, maybe twice as big as this room here. And in any case, one of my friends invited me to take an opportunity with an American bank, a medium-sized American bank, to become the lead programmer for the international department. And I did develop software for foreign exchange trading, money market trading. That was that time was very something very interesting for me.
Eventually, you worked for the federal government, banking, Federal Reserve?
Yes, I worked as a supervising examiner at the Federal Reserve, and I was examining large financial institutions. And my focus again was in information technology, computers, and operations. And those my career has been pretty much after I left graduate school in physics, pretty much in IT.
So basically, with the Federal Reserve Bank, you retired there.
I retired there. I worked with the Federal Reserve for about 11 years.
In Manhattan?
Yes, primarily in Manhattan, but we would go all over the country and sometimes abroad.
Now, you told me maybe a couple of years ago that you wanted to write a book on the Federal Reserve Bank.
Well, that was a pipe dream, and that was because of the financial crisis that occurred.
There are still financial problems today.
Well, there may be a different variation. So far, we hope that things will work out.
You abandoned that idea?
No, I did, because a lot of people got to it before I did, and
I see.
So I didn't.
You can write your experience. Your personal experience is, I think, just as good as any other.
Yeah, that would be useful because I was there in the middle of the crisis, and I had the perspective maybe different than others have, and. Yeah, it's still fresh in my mind.
2008, you were still there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me, how did do you decide to become an artist? All of a sudden, you left the banking, which deals with numbers, abstract numbers, and all of a sudden now you come and you just be a sculptor.
Yes, as a matter of fact, this is very serendipitous. When my daughter was young, about 4 or 5 years old, I would try to give as much time as I could, because I work very long hours and weekends. But so we would play with Play-Doh, and we would build figurines of animals or maybe characters from the Sesame Street, something like that. And my wife said, "This is great, maybe she should take art courses." And
so she discovered you, in a sense.
Yeah, yes, sure. She not only she discovered me, but she encouraged me. And at that time, I really couldn't spend time, beside the family commitments and the work commitments. I took an evening course, and I did some small sculptures.
So you were always making little things from before?
Yeah, but only in the context of my daughter. I wasn't doing
I see.
And so I never thought I had any talent, and I'm not sure I have it now, but I enjoyed it. So what I did is, when I retired, I figured I had more time, which may not be as true as I thought. And what I did is I enrolled to the Arts Student League in Manhattan.
How did you find that school?
I did inquire with friends that I know, and they kind of directed me to that school. And the reason I like the school is because it is very flexible in terms of schedule. You pay by the month. Your program go month to month. It's not like a full semester.
Each month you have to pay a tuition?
Yeah, you pay your tuition each month, and you don't have to stay. If you don't want, you go back in the next month. And so the idea is to give people like myself, and was retired, people who work, more importantly, the opportunity to be exposed to not only to the studios, which are the primary very important value, but the teachers, and just as important to the students. And many of them are accomplished artists, and they're different levels. So you could be a beginner, and you could be very accomplished.
I see. Now, I know that you spent a lot of time at that school. Can you stay there and do work even without the teacher present?
You can, in some occasions. You could pay what they call in our case, it's casting fee. Because when you do casting of the models, you have to. You do it pretty much by yourself. There's a technical instructor that advise you. But generally, you have to register for a class with a teacher available. But the teacher gives you a lot of freedom. So you go to...
It seems it's a misnomer. Why do they say Art Student League? Is it governed by students?
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's governed by the students who become members after a certain amount of credit hours that they stay there, usually about a year and a half if you are there full time. And then you become a member of the league, and you will actually vote for the administration every year. You vote, and you're empowered to
make changes.
To make changes, and the difference between this school and other art school is that is student oriented, to give a freedom to students to discover themselves and encourage them to kind of have their talent emerge.
Now, you said that you pay tuition monthly. But that's located in Manhattan, right? It must be an expensive school.
It is expensive, and they have endowments, and they of course they welcome donations. And,
I see.
So in case you're so inclined, but it is expensive real estate, and
sure.
And they managed to.
Where is that located, on 59th Street?
It's 57th and 7th Avenue. It's across from the Carnegie Hall, right, diagonally across.
Do they have live models and everything?
Yeah, that's also an important aspect. An artist needs to work from live models. So the class entails the studio, the live model, the instructor. But it's the artist who has to do the thinking and doing the work. Yeah. So it facilitates our artists to become good, and those artists who are good already, it gives them the environment with models and studios.
Now tell me, you can work with sculpture. I imagine it's not easy because you what is the material the medium that you use?
Right. They have many media. What I use is I model from live models with the clay. And whether you do a small sculpture or a big sculpture, in this case you use clay, and you finish the sculpting first, And then once you're done with it and you're satisfied,
does the teacher supervise it?
the teachers helps you with comments, and it says maybe, you know, should be a little bit this way, a little bit that way, you know, and they give you some ideas. It just tells you it doesn't look like the energy emanates from the.
So basically, the work is by you, and it's original work, whether you see a model or not.
That's correct, but you know, you want to start with a model, especially human, in terms of understanding the human anatomy better. Yeah, and then there are special courses for the anatomy if you want to take them, which are very good courses. Yes.
But I imagine if you want a sculptor, you can sculpture, for example, a cup.
That's right. That's right. And I did one of those
you
too.
Did
But in that case, they have a kiln, and you fire the clay.
And have you used other materials?
Well,
so far?
No, primarily it's clay. Then you make a mold, you know, of the piece that you finished, and then you.
What kind of material you do that? I know nothing about sculpture.
Well, then I pour a plaster in the mold, and you get, you know, the positive picture that you know. You had, and it's very much like what you had when you did the clay. So basically you destroy the clay, and you come out with, in my case, with plaster, or there's other variations like you could do in cement, you could do in harder type of materials. And
how long have you been doing this?
I've been at the school for maybe a little more than 4 years, maybe let's say 4.5.
Do you consider yourself still a student, or?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Absolutely,
absolutely, yes. I mean, it's you never finish learning. Yes.
I guess so.
Yeah.
And tell me.
And I've done that full time, pretty much, in the evening, primarily in the evening.
In the evening. Yeah. And. Does it encourage your school to show your work?
Of course, they facilitate the students, and they
outside of school.
Yeah, and they do
exhibit.
They encourage exhibit the student on his own. He could do exhibit. You know, could be interested in some galleries. They have events, you know, on a regular basis. And they put their pieces in there.
What happened to you? You won an award or recognition. How did they go?
There was
first prize, second prize.
No. Actually, it was my recognition was was a juried show.
Oh, a jury.
Which means there's a jury that determines who gets in and who doesn't get in, based on the submission of usually pictures. And then if you are accepted, then you know that's called a juried exhibit. So and the one that I think you're referring to is the one that was done by the American artist. A professional league, American Artists Professional League. There was an event last fall.
I went to see it.
Yes.
It's quite an extensive show.
Yeah,
and all good work.
Yeah, it's a national show. That was my.
And yours, what won the first?
No, that was just they were prizes given, but I need to correct you. I didn't get the prize, but I was happy to be there. Because the competition was
also was the judges that decided that it was
and then I became what they call elected member of the American Art Professional League.
Oh wow! So you're a big shot now.
No, I'm not. No, I don't consider myself.
So tell me, the ones that you showed that I came to see also. It's
right.
a bust of a lady.
Right, right.
Does it have a name?
Yes, it's titled Grace. Grace, because
Grace.
Because I think the outcome was very graceful, and it showed some sort of very thoughtful and very gentle and very poised type of.
It actually shows some kind of alive or reflexive or thinking, how should I say?
Yeah, some in introspection, yes.
Now, my personal observation, it's someone close to your wife's face. Is that, am I wrong, or?
Well, you know, actually that's interesting because you can't help sometimes, you know, doing an image of yourself or people you know well. You kind of, without realizing it, although you have the model there, you kind of deviate to some extent.
Yeah.
Because you have some preconceived ideas.
But has anybody else told you that resembles somewhat to your wife?
No, but...
Why do you think they selected this one and not the other works you did?
Well, you know, it's because, you know, it's up to them, Vito, you know.
So they don't give you an explanation?
No, they really don't, usually.
I see the life in the eyes.
Right.
Yeah, that's Some kind of power.
And that's the most difficult thing.
Then you have this other one, which I call La Maja Desnuda, by Goya,
yes,
or
yes.
maybe even by some other Italian. They have several Maja Desnudas.
There's a Canova piece that resembles that a little bit.
Yeah.
And
only that this is more realistic, isn't it?
Well, you know,
the model is not a beautiful. Well, I guess the way Goya or the artist depict a very idealistic, elegant, or sensuous. Here you show basically a female,
right,
with certain age,
right,
not perfect, but still a human.
Yeah. Well, you know,
how large is this?
This is life size. So and you know, she must have been about 5'6" or 5'5".
And it rests on a sofa or on a kind of a Roman.
Well, you know, this is actually my rendition, because what they do is they put pillows. And there's a stand, like a round stand, large enough.
Yeah.
To create like a bench. And there were pillows, and it look, you know, this making it look like a divano.
Yeah.
Is more my interpretation, because you know it's harder to do so many cushions.
I'm glad that you say this is my interpretation of what you see, because in some of the works I see classic aspect of the work, and I'm sure not everybody would easily fall into it, probably because you're Italian and you have this Italian sculpture or whatever artistic periods in mind.
Yeah, I think you got into something actually, and very, very incisive on your part, because I've been told by others, including my teacher, where I kind of tend to go into the classical art without really doing it deliberately.
I see.
Because you know I have a sense that your hands and your eyes and your mind, you know, your memories, work together and bring those things that you.
You have this other one that I call it Venus of Milo, Venus di Milo.
Okay.
It also reminds me of the classical sculptures.
Right.
Now this was done from a real.
Thank you. That's a live. Well, I'll give you a little story about that. I was trying to do the full body, and I did, but I didn't like the way, you know. After a certain amount of time, then the model, a new model comes. So you don't have the model anymore. So I decided to. I didn't like the way the end phase. No, it didn't get the energy that now you see maybe in other pieces. So I decided to do the best of what I had, and I did a torso. I'm very satisfied with that.
Yeah. It looks very much so. And then there's a one which to me is a little mysterious. I think, what did you call it? You call it mermaid?
I call it a mermaid because of the pose, and the other possible title for it would be the leopardess, like a leopard. If you see, she has such a movement, even without moving. You could follow the piece, and she has a movement and an energy which is ready to jump.
I see.
And so, and I had the difficulty in deciding, but mermaid
But I think the transformation...
It's more sensuous as well. It's not only you see energy.
But it shows the mutability of the body, that from human body becomes a mythological...
Yes, some of that certainly entered my mind, yes.
And here is still the classical the culture that comes up.
I think you're right. You're onto something.
And now comes something else, which is the lady who's sitting on a stool.
Yeah, it's more like between Egyptian and more the archaic Greek.
Okay, can go, especially the hairdo, the hairstyle.
Yeah, it's almost a combination of that. But I'm glad you liked that, because that was one of the piece that I did when my daughter was 4 years old, and I went to New School University for actually it was 2 semesters, and I did it then. So it goes back many years. I would say about almost 28 years.
Wow. This is a very classic...
And that's done in bronze. That's done in bronze.
Oh, it is bronze.
It's about 18 inches, no less, about 12, 14 inches.
Wow, but it must be difficult to work in bronze.
Well, what you start with...
What is it, a shell or just a piece?
No, with bronze, where you start is, instead of clay, you start with wax. You do the shape, initial shape with wax. When you finish and you're happy with it, then you bring it to a foundry, and they put it in the middle of sand, a box full of sand, and they have some channels where they pour hot bronze. The hot bronze melts the wax, and they have channels at the ends of the piece where the wax gets out.
It's a whole new technique.
It's called the lost wax method.
It must be an expensive proposition.
It's very expensive, yes. Bronze is very expensive today. That piece, the bronze alone, it could cost a couple of $1,000.
And now we have to another one, which I call the human at rest.
I call it repose. Well, this is the model was again, there were cushions, and there look like a rock. But there were cushions instead.
You can see the rib bones and everything.
That's right, and it's a very kind of dramatic exposure of the back ribs, and I thought there was
What is it made of?
Well, this one is made of clay, but in this case, I don't use plaster. The clay is put into a kiln, and it's fired and becomes like ceramic.
I see. How about this one, the bust, which is corpulent lady?
This was a large lady, but very serene. It was like a Polynesian. If you look at that. Remind me some of the Polynesian.
Yeah, this is not classical in that
right.
sense.
That's more Polynesian, and that was done in clay and then plaster. And I call it Serenity.
Serenity.
Because she's very serene, very almost doing yoga.
And now let's talk about probably the last one of the.
Yes.
This is we have the picture of the. I call it bust, of a male bust with a beard.
Yes. The title of that is Maestro.
Maestro.
And basically is my interpretation of what my teacher, that I've been with him for about 4+ years.
I see.
And he has a beard, and like you see him there. And to me, after I was finished, it reminded me maybe by some of the Greek philosophers. It looks very close to Homer could be.
The program is over. Right here.
Well, thank you so much.